Hello, and thank you for attending the SAT Scores and Reports training for Kentucky. My name is Mark Yoho. I'm the K-12 state lead for College Board in Kentucky. You can see my email address here. Please feel free to reach out to me at any time at myoho@collegeboard.org, and I'll be happy to try to assist you. So today we're going to be talking about scores and benchmarks and making sure that we have a common definition and understanding of how these scores are comprised. And we will talk about how to access and utilize the K-12 reporting portal, which is where you will find your SAT scores. So scores and benchmarks, as you have likely seen, the SAT is on a 1,600 point scale, 800 points coming from the reading and writing section, and 800 points coming from the math section. There's a link here in the second bullet for concordance tables, which is how you can compare SAT and ACT scores. This might help you and your families and students and fellow educators get more used to putting SAT scale scores in context from what you might be more used to. There's a link here that you can share with your families and students that will help them better understand their SAT scores. So you might open that up and bookmark it so you can utilize that when scores become available. You've probably heard the term college and career readiness benchmarks, and I want to make sure you have an understanding of how those benchmarks are determined. So they are set at the section level. So the reading and writing section has a college and career readiness benchmark, and so does the math. And the definition is students who earn that score or higher have a 75% likelihood of earning a C or better in a first year credit bearing course in the same subject area. So you can see the grade level benchmarks here for the SAT suite of assessments. And you'll note at the end for the SAT, the college and career readiness benchmark for reading and writing is a 480, and the college and career readiness benchmark for math is a 530. Content domains and student practice scores here. Wanted to provide an explanation, and this is what the report out will look like for students and educators. So I wanted to explain kind of what they mean. You've seen the definition for these content domains in the trainings that we did in November, and there's a link at the top there where you can learn more about those as a refresher. So for example, if we're looking at the math content domains here, you'll see that it was the algebra content domain comprised 26% of the test section, which was approximately 12 to 14 questions. And then you'll see there's 3 out of the 7 bars are filled in. And that's giving a visual indicator to the educators and students on how the students performed in that particular skill. So you'll see right at the bottom there, it's helping identify that the student performed at a medium difficulty level for algebra. And there's some importance here for helping the students improve their scores and understand where they're strong and where they could use improvement. Because when they're practicing on their own, either in Khan Academy or using the item bank and so forth, this will let them know what level that they're currently at and where they should be practicing. So 2 things to keep in mind. Accessing the K-12 reporting portal. To access the portal, you need to use the Managing Access tool in your College Board account. The first time that you set this up, you need to have an access code because one has never been generated and provided to anybody in the school or district, if that's the case. If that's the case, please call educator support for AP at the number listed here, and they'll get your code generated. There's a link here on setting up the Access Manager for the first time, if this is totally new to you, or you can just hop in and get ready to go if you've ever used this for any of the SAT suite of assessments. The Access Manager is responsible for managing the reporting portal and assigning others to access, which we'll talk more about. Access Managers also monitor expiration dates for folks' access. And so that's a responsibility that they'll want to monitor as well, which you can learn more about at that link. Assigning roles. So you'll see in this image here at the top right, the roles are access manager, which is somebody who can assign others access in the K-12 reporting portal. Detailed reporting, which can be aggregate level reports only, or it can be student level reports. If you only give the aggregate level, they wouldn't be able to see student level information. So most of the time, you'll probably be assigning student level K-12 detailed reports so that folks can see student level data. For the data files, this is the electronic score reporting data files are very lengthy, large files that probably your IT folks need to be able to upload the data into a third-party system. This is not a good way to access and read your data. This is really just to download a big file to upload into a third-party data system. There's a link here to the training on how to use the managing access tool. And there's another link about granting and assigning others roles. Okay, getting into the actual K-12 assessment reporting portal. So once you log in, which means that you have been assigned access to K-12 detailed reports, there's a link here that you can use to log in, or you can just put in collegeboard.org and log in. And then under My Tools and Services at the top, you should see K-12 assessment reporting. And go ahead and click on that. And this is what the new homepage looks like. So at the very top here, you see the quick navigation links. So you can search by student, SAT, PSAT related scores, downloadable reports, more online reports and tools, and a help section. So let's cruise through these to make sure that you understand what's available and how to navigate it. So at the top there, you can quickly enter a student's first and or last name, search for the student, and bring that up. So that's particularly helpful when you're meeting with the student or their family and you want to discuss their scores in particular. It's very quick to find them individually without having to go run a bunch of things and search for the student. On the left there, for SAT and PSAT related scores, you'll see that you can choose by the assessment at the top. You have an overview aggregate of the scores there on the left. You can download all the student scores at one time in a batch PDF if you'd like, and it tells you your average overall score there. On the right, you'll see you have upcoming registrations for tests. If you have tests in the system already coming up in SSOR, you will see those here on the screen. Below that part on the home page, you'll see a detailed shot here of the test administration that's selected. And you'll see if you have student access that you can download the student scores there. If you only have aggregate access, you won't see that. And then on the right, of course, we talked about, you'll see upcoming registrations. Below that, you'll see downloadable reports. On the left is the ESR, the electronic score report files. Again, that's the big long file that folks would, probably your IT folks, would use to download and upload the scores into a third-party system. And then on the right, you'll see other report downloads. Some of these could be growth reports. You could access fee waiver codes there. You might have cohort files, or if you have batch downloaded student PDF score reports, those would be made available there. Here's some information on the electronic score reporting data files, some of the information about file formats and layouts there, if this might be helpful to you and or your IT folks, depending on how you use these files. Below that, you'll see more online reports and tools, and then the help page, and we can go more into that. For the Big Future School and Connections report, you'll have an engagement report, which is where you can view what students have done in the Big Future app, and the student engagement and detail outreach report should tell you how and if students are communicating with colleges and universities and scholarship entities. Other tools you might access as you're going through, again, as we mentioned, are growth reports if you've given more than one assessment. You have the Skills Insight tool, which we won't talk much about today, but skills insight will help when you're looking at score bands, identify what skills students are likely to be able to do at that score band. And we'll talk about how that might be more useful later. You can also access the educator question bank here. And as a reminder from our November trainings, all educators have access to thousands of free SAT and PSAT items that they can use for students to practice. And these can be filtered by different content skill levels, items of difficulty, and they're also mapped to Kentucky's standards. You'll be able to view the last 5 online reports that have been generated. If you need help and can't figure out what you're trying to do there at the bottom, you'll see that there's a help page with learn more about the K-12 reporting portal, which can be very helpful. And there's targeted help videos there that you might find useful as well. So scroll to the bottom if you are having trouble navigating. So what reports are available in the K-12 reporting portal? So for aggregate reports, we have performance by all students, which I will go into detail about today. So you can compare your performance in your school against the district if you have more than one school, as compared to the state, as compared to the country, and the globally as well, where available. Performance by demographics is that same data broken down by race and ethnicity, gender, fee waiver usage, etc. Knowledge and skills we looked at earlier, and we'll talk more about later. The engagement reports we talked about with Big Future Schools. Connections, again, is how outside entities like colleges and universities and scholarship organizations are communicating with your students. And then growth reports you can schedule to have run if you give more than one of these, the SAT suite of assessments. For student reports, you'll see the student roster will let you know which students have participated in certain assessments or have upcoming registrations. You can batch PDF score reports from in there. So how do you run a report? So if you remember back at the home page at the top there, it looks like what you see on the left. So at the top, you can select SAT and PSAT related scores from the jump links if you want, or you can just scroll down a little bit and select it. You'll select the assessment that you're trying to generate for first, so in this case, SAT. You'll select the administration that you're looking for in the drop-down box. And then on the right, you would run average scores at your school. And so this will show you performance by all students. You'll see at the top there on the file looking options, mean score and section benchmark performance. So mean scores are going to give you your aggregate overall mean scores on the 1600 point scale. If you switch to section benchmark performance, it's going to tell you the percentage of students who hit each benchmark. So for example, if I chose section benchmark performance for total, so this means both sections, reading and writing and math, you'll see the filled in box means met both benchmarks. The vertical line is met one benchmark, and the diagonals is didn't meet any benchmarks. So if I look at the benchmark performance here, so for the district, if I'm looking at this, 52% of my students met both benchmarks, 30% met one, 18% didn't meet either. And you can, so that's how you would read this. And you can see, you could compare that from the district to the state to the state. All schools would include private schools to US territories, global testers. So you have several different ways you can benchmark yourself against others should you wish to do so. Now, if you go scroll down, you'll have that same data for math and for reading and writing, and it changes a little bit. So if you look at the performance levels here, it's telling me what percent exceeded this particular benchmark, in this case, math, which percent was approaching the benchmark, which means within one grade level of attaining the benchmark. So if you recall, when we defined what the college and career readiness benchmarks were earlier, that there's benchmarks for each grade level. So this means they were within the one grade level below. And then the diagonal lines for not yet approaching the benchmark means the student was one or more grade levels below the college and career readiness benchmark. Performance by all demographics looks very similar, except you would see it here. Like if we had chosen gender, you would see all groups, male, female, not specified. So it would break down like that. It would do the same if you chose race, ethnicity, or for students who used a fee waiver. And of course, your students are not using fee waivers on SAT school day. For the knowledge and skills report, from that same setting that we did before at the top of the homepage and go below the average scores by school and demographic like we just did and select aggregate knowledge and skills. And then when the drop down pops up, you'll select the institution you're looking for. You'll choose the test, the administration, and the grade level and hit run report. And you'll see this report pop up right here. So you'll see, for example, if we were in the reading and writing section, you see the 4 content domains that we discussed before, and you're going to see your performance score bands on the left side. And so you'll remember from the visual that the reading and writing section is on a 2 to 800 point scale. So you'll see those broken down into the 7 different performance levels there, and you'll see the number of testers and the percent of your testers that tested in each score band. So this can help you identify where your students are performing well and where they might need improvement. So if we're looking at this data right here, I might look at expression of ideas and see that 23% of my students are in the lowest performing score band. So that might be where I look to help improve my students' performance. So what do students see for their student reports? So there are 3 ways that students can access their scores. They can sign up for the Big Future School mobile app when they're taking their exam in their exam setup, and they'll be sent a link to download the Big Future Schools app. If they choose to do that, they will be notified immediately when their scores are available. Students, if they have a CollegeBoard account, can log into their CollegeBoard account and access them online, or they'll be getting a PDF from the school that they can deliver to the students. Here's a YouTube video from CollegeBoard explaining digital SAT scores, the report. So this might be something, again, to bookmark and have on hand to share with your students and families when scores become available. So I would use this in addition to the link I provided earlier to help students and families understand their scores. And again, both of these resources might be helpful for your educators as well, while this is new to many of them. So this is what you'll see a student score report looks like. So you'll see on the top left is the total score on the 1600 point scale score. And next to that is what I think is the most digestible way to interpret the scores for most students and families is the percentile score. So this is going to help them understand in context how they compared to all students who took the test. So if you tell a student they got an 1120 on the SAT, they're probably going to ask you, is that a good score? There's no common definition for what's a good score, depending on what that student hopes to do with this score. But you can tell them if they're in the 75th percentile, they scored as well or better than 75% of the students who took that test. So that'll help them understand relative to their expectation how they performed on the SAT. Below that, you'll see the same thing, the scale and percentile scale scores for each section, the reading and writing section and the math section. So that'll help them understand how do they do in reading and writing as compared to the math. The knowledge and skills we talked about earlier, the only difference is this time it's not a practice test. So it doesn't say Did they perform at easy, medium, hard? It has an actual scale performance there, but it's giving a visual indicator to students on how did I perform on these particular skills? Where might I have been strong and where might I need improvement? Students also get career insight snapshots on their score reports, and this is what they'll see on their paper score report. And if they go online, they'll be able to see even further information. So what they're going to get, and this will all be specific to Kentucky, is 6 careers based on their scores that might be good fits for them to consider within Kentucky. So each career shown to a student needs skills like theirs, connects to math, reading, and writing scores, is growing career, so which means it shows positive job growth in the state over the last 5 years, pays a living wage, spans 6 interest areas, requires post-secondary education, and so that's that information that is entailed in there. Students can go online, like I said, to find more information and do further career exploration, but this is what's provided to them on their score report, and they'll find online that is personal to them based on how they performed on the test. So that's it for round 1. Again, please use those resources and links to learn more as you need to, and or reach out to me, and I'll be happy to help. Thank you so much for attending the training. See you around.